9-point dog went into Jordan-Hare and knocked off Auburn. So it's going to be a similar type atmosphere. But, I think LSU's the side. Robbie, real quick, would you take the over or under on 9 punts, LSU versus Florida?
Oh, I think you got to play over 9 punts. Yeah, there's going to be plenty of 3-and-outs in that game, I would think, yeah.
We got 335-336 Missouri at South Carolina. Looks like we're seeing pick'ems -1 on each side here, so this is about as even a matchup as the sports betting world is going to say. 64.5 the total, Robbie.
Yeah, a few of these games here, Drew, we're getting a little bit, or at least I'm getting a little bit into the psychology and the psyche of teams and how will they bounce back. And, you know, in betting lingo, we like to call it situational spots. But the South Carolina one is pretty interesting here because I think their season might have gone by the wayside with that loss to Kentucky. It's a team that came in with all kinds of expectations in that SEC East. Week 2, they get Georgia at home. Columbia, South Carolina is sky high. They get blasted. Totally, the game was never close. And all of a sudden, it's almost as if Will Muschamp's team is put back in their place. Talked about how Muschamp took that point in time to kind of skirt around the issue of maybe not liking the up-tempo offense as much as maybe he liked it in the spring game. But then they come back and they get another shot on the road against Kentucky, who was building momentum. Hey, you know, South Carolina can go into Kentucky. We saw a switch of favorites. Kentucky opened the favorite. South Carolina went off the favorite. There was a lot of money in their direction. They lose again, and they lose physically. They got whipped in that game, 24-10. You know, it was a low-scoring game, but it's indicative. The 2-touchdown deficit is indicative of how well Kentucky beat South Carolina. I don't know where they're at now. You lose 2 games inside the division, 0-2 in conference and 0-2 in division. Now you got to play another divisional opponent who's off a bye week and ready to roll here. I think Drew Lock and company, after seeing Georgia, won't be surprised by anything South Carolina is going to have for them. And certainly there's a bit of revenge here for Drew Lock. They get beat handily 31-13 last year by this team. He didn't have a great game. I kind of like all situational ends of the Missouri side here, even though they're on the road. And I kind of like them fundamentally. You know, I know what I'm going to get out of Missouri on offense. Not so sure what you're going to get out of South Carolina on offense. And if Jake Bentley can't go, I mean, he's listed as probable now, so we're going to go on the assumption he's playing here. Whether he's at 100% or not, we're not sure. But, you know, the Jake Bentley situation is a little bit of cause for concern. But I just think overall, Missouri will get to that defense. Missouri with the week off has it on the situational side, and I don't know where South Carolina's heads are at. I would love to see what Will Muschamp is telling his team right now, because Will Muschamp has always struck me, Drew, as a coach that kind of freaks out when things aren't going great. If you watch him on the sidelines, that's not good for your team.
Yeah, Coach Boom is what they call him, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, great defensive coordinator. I guess how good of a head coach he is still up in the air. But, yeah, he can be a little wild on the sidelines. At least he used to be. But, Robbie, this is the last game, right? Maryland, Michigan?
This is the one.
All right, and then we'll be back starting tomorrow with Tulane, Cincinnati. Teddy Covers will cover that. And, guys, like I said a couple times, we got the new site up. Make sure to check it out, sportsmemo.com. Robbie's MLB, he'll have his playoff selections up. 27-unit positive regular season. Looks to continue it in the playoffs. Also, college football. Robbie's a great choice. Over 60% on the season, up over 15 units as well out the gate. So he's seeing it well, obviously knows his stuff. Make sure to check out sportsmemo.com. Rob Veno's a great choice. We got last game here, Robbie, 337-338, Maryland at Michigan. Looks like the Wolverines laying 17 or 17.5 at home, 47.5 the total. I think this number's a little too big, Robbie. You agree with me?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I disagree with you either, though. So let me just say this, that the status of Rashawn Gary for the Michigan football team on the defensive side will be important here. Status for Chris Evans will be important here. Listen, I saw enough out of Maryland in that Temple game to know that if they cannot run the football, they can't hurt you. They're not going to – Temple totally shut the running game down. and Maryland could not find a way to move the football through the air. Temple's defense and Michigan's defense are night and day. I mean, Temple's a good AAC defense. Michigan's an elite national defense. And right now, on the ground, they're only giving up 82 yards a game. 86 yards a game. So certainly they have all the capability of shutting Maryland's ground attack down and forcing them to the air, which leads to turnovers and whatnot. And surprisingly, Michigan offensively, over 200 rushing, over 200 passing per game. Had a tough game last week with Northwestern. In a lot of aspects, Drew, I think that was to be expected because Pat Fitzgerald, if you take a look at his the performance of his team over the last 9 games of the season, the last 2 years, they'd get off to a shaky start, play real well after that. Last year, off to a shaky start, play real well after it. This year, off to a shaky start, played real well last week, even without their number one running back who had to retire prior to that contest. So I think Fitzgerald can get his team, and especially with that defense, in a situation where they can play Michigan tough. I don't know that Maryland can play Michigan tough here. I'd love to have Gary involved in this game on the defensive line. If he is, they probably shut Maryland down cold. I just don't – I wouldn't base my selection on or against Michigan on last week's result, whatever. But I would base my selection on this game on the fact that Maryland, if they can't run the football, their offense is just not good enough. And over time in this one, I think Michigan over 60 minutes can wear them out.
Maryland's off a bye, though, Robbie. And, say what you want about their coaching staff. I think they're pretty well coached, coordinators and everything. And so being able to prepare for an extra week to work on the passing game. Also, Michigan, you do bring up that, they are a good defense. But who have they really played? Outside of Notre Dame, I mean, the at Northwestern game, they didn't look that good, right? So they've only played Nebraska, SMU, and a MAC team. So it's kind of a tough to judge, no, with Michigan?
I would think certainly it is, but again, if you just go on personnel and what that defense has proven over the course of the last couple of years and under Harbaugh, I think the defense was never really the question, Drew. The question always with them has been, can they move the football? And to see them at over 200 yards rushing and over 200 yards passing, to me is a real indicator. They've had some games. They played 3 games in a row where they scored over 45 points or 45 plus points. And like I say, I'm basically my whole analysis here is based upon the fact that if Maryland can't provide their number one option, which is a heavy and very solid running game, then they're in deep trouble. And I don't know that they'll be able to run on this team. If they can pass, they can pass. But I just don't know that slip screens and quick slants and Matt Canada motion is enough to, take on a defense that's far better than your offensive personnel. So we'll see. And laying 17.5 with Michigan, again, that's why I said in the beginning, I don't agree. I don't disagree, because it is hard to lay a lot of points with that team with Jim Harbaugh at the helm.
Yeah. Absolutely, Robbie. Hey, great stuff, man. Good podcast, and excited to have you on tomorrow and Friday for the NFL Every Game on the Board podcast. But you want to say any closing comments before we shut this down?
We just love doing this, Drew, Every Game on the Board. I can't tell you how many, and I know Sportsmemo has got them as well, but I'll just say from my own standpoint, personally, how many times I've been asked, are you guys still going to do the Every Game on the Board podcast? It seems that people love the fact that we go through every single game, whether it be a Sun Belt or a Power 5, and give our opinion on side and total, or at least give analysis on side and total. So I'm glad that so many are interested in what looks to be a very, very near future now, Drew. The number of listeners increasing daily, so that's a good thing, and I'm glad people enjoy what we bring here.
Absolutely. Well said, Robbie, and I can reiterate that. We appreciate you listening, and please reach out to us on Twitter, Robbie at Sports, or at Rob Veno Sports, and myself at Drew Martin Betts. Let us know what you want to hear. We're going to keep doing the Every Game on the Board podcast. Glad you guys are liking it. And, if you could retweet or share on Facebook, we'd appreciate that as well. Get the word out. But, guys, thanks for listening. And for Rob Veno, I'm Drew Martin. We'll be back tomorrow finishing off the college football Every Game on the Board podcast.